Welcome back to CryptosRus. I'm George. We're all George. So today is looking pretty darn good, and Bitcoin is ready to make a new high. Well, what happened? Well, we got a big inflation reading, and it was better than expected. Among many things, we got some great stuff happening. So let's talk about everything. U.S. market is looking hot today. And I kind of told you guys this, right? After yesterday, we had a PPI reading and it was below expectations, which is good, meaning inflation didn't go up as much. And today, we got another big reading. The core inflation reading slows down. It was expected to be at 3.3%. And now we're at 3.2%. So it's not that we don't have inflation. It's just a little bit less than expected. We're still, still holding. Although you could see from September on, it's still climbing from 2.4% to 2.9%, still in the twos, but overall the core inflation went down, and that is what Wall Street is looking at. Okay, so obviously this is very good. The US market is blooming. Bitcoin and crypto. Bitcoin's back above 99,000. And pretty soon, yesterday I said it, it would not surprise me. With a good inflation reading, we could be back to $100,000. We'll see if that comes true today. It certainly can come, and everything else is following. Now, outside the US, UK also shows inflation is cooling down. Lower than expected, 2.5% in December versus 2.6% a month before. So, both in the US and UK, inflation is slowing down. Again, doesn't mean that there's no inflation, but it's slowing down. So, if that's the case, that means this is good. Buying is going to commence, right? And Wall Street is not going to be so scared, right? Selling off assets and buying yield. That's just ridiculous. So obviously after today, the 10-year yield pulls back and dumps because now people are selling their dollars for assets once again. Right? So again, you know what? I've been saying this. Wall Street, they're supposed to be the smartest people on the planet, yet their moves are almost predictable because they're so reactionary. Right? They wait for a report and then they either buy or sell. They don't do anything ahead of time. So it's like, man, we're better than Wall Street. All we have to do is buy and DCA Bitcoin. That's it. And you'll outperform all these funds and hedge managers by double digits, sometimes triple digits in a year. I just don't get it sometimes. Anyways, Wall Street also, sometimes when they're very reactionary, they panic too. They fall for the FUD, which they have created. So for the last 4 days, we had some pretty massive outflows. We had over $1.1 billion worth of Bitcoin outflowing from the ETFs. I'll guarantee you today, we are going to get that massive inflow once again. So everyone that panic sold over the last 4 days, guess what they're going to do? They're going to buy back at a higher price. Why? You could have just held for 4 days and it would have been fine. But now they're going to resort buying IBIT back at a higher price, or buying Bitcoin back at a higher price, or buying XRP at a higher price, or buying SUI at a higher price. What's the point? All you had to do is hold on, and if you DCA'd, even better, right? Last night, I played a clip of Larry Fink saying Bitcoin is going to equal gold, which would put it at $900,000 if that comes true, if Bitcoin equals the market cap of gold. Here we got someone else, the head of their digital investments, saying Bitcoin adoption is still in early stages. Of course it is. Let's take a listen. Let's take a listen.
It's interesting because at the end of last year, you saw Bitcoin skyrocket above $100,000 per Bitcoin. You saw that interest really start to taper off at the beginning of this year. You've had an incredibly successful launch. You have had some outflows in the product in more recent weeks. What do you make of that as you enter year two?
Yeah, well, I think big picture, it was a pretty incredible first year for IBIT. Obviously, record-setting on a lot of dimensions, including inflows and asset accumulation. And, you know, as we come into year two now, we're focused on a lot of the same stuff that we were in year one, which is really being a valuable resource and an education partner to many of our clients. As we've talked about in the past on this show, we're still quite early days in terms of the adoption of the wealth advisory and the institutional segment. And so we're spending a lot of time engaging with those types of clients.
Is that where the growth is? We just heard from Kavita Gupta at Delta Blockchain, who said institutional is the next catalyst in 2025. I mean, how much opportunity is there?
Well, certainly the third bucket, which we refer to as end investors direct, was gangbusters out of the gates, right? And these other two categories, wealth advisory and institutional, there are much greater hurdles in terms of their process and the research and diligence that they go through.
Of those two buckets, which is a bigger opportunity?
It's hard to pick one, but probably wealth advisory actually, because there's a lot of sort of momentum around firms that are working through their expedited approvals processes to allow advisors to actually.
All right. So, bottom line, BlackRock is going to push the hell out of their IBITs to wealth advisors and to institutions this year. Year two. Year one, they accumulated over 500,000 Bitcoins, like over 2% of the supply. That's just year one. Year two, they're going to push even harder. So obviously, this is going to contribute to ongoing supply shock that's happening. All right. I mean, it's not going to stop, guys. So I reiterate and rehash these points. No matter if we're pumping or dumping or consolidating, you got to see the bigger picture. When you have the largest asset manager who manages close to $12 trillion worth of assets, okay, that's more than a market cap of the 51st state, Canada, France, 55th state, UK, the 60th state, and Australia, the 75th state. When it's bigger than all these new states, I mean, you got to take them seriously, right? Especially when they're being so pro Bitcoin. I was making jokes there. Okay. Joking there for any of you guys that are getting furious about those statements. Anyways, all right, what else is there? Bitwise says nations, countries will double their holdings this year. And if the U.S. starts their strategic reserve, which could be coming in 5 days, man, it's going more than double. Countries are going to FOMO. It's going to be absolutely fantastic.